Tonight, a leaked video of a suspect in the back of a police cruiser pulling out a gun is raising some serious questions.
You don't want to think that somebody who's inside a police car or anywhere else for that matter has a gun, especially after they've been searched.
Officials asking why officers did not find the gun before putting him in the car and want to know who leaked the video. Plus,
so that's why I'm here, to show that I am against this, and I am here to support my fellow LGBT members.
Hundreds protesting outside an event at the Toronto Public Library tonight, featuring a controversial speaker, and residents say they can't go outside after dark, even to walk their dogs, because they fear for their safety. Broken streetlights are leaving their neighborhood in the pitch black. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Toronto police have a full investigation underway tonight after a handcuffed man was able to pull out a handgun while riding in the back seat of a cruiser. We know about it because someone leaked video of that incident to the media. Ali Chasson has more on the investigation and what we found out about the suspect's record.
His name is Ali Shobeg. He's 38 years old. He is from Mississauga. And as we found out today, he had a lifetime ban on owning any type of firearm. And that's because of his connection to a shooting back in 2005. This is just adding to mounting questions of how this actually could have happened here.
It was otherwise a routine impaired driving arrest. There's 38-year-old Ali Shobeg in the back of a police cruiser. Not before being pat down and cuffed, of course. Toronto Police 51 Division officers are taking him to get processed after being found allegedly drunk behind the wheel of his car. And then this happens en route. He's got a gun. He shimmies it to his knees.
We could have police officers shot, we could have members of the public shot. It's a very disturbing video.
The video sent shockwaves through the city's law enforcement realm, prompting internal investigations looking at two things.
Why wasn't this detected during the search? And the other investigation is to how did this video get leaked? So we'll let those investigations take place. But in the meantime, we're more concerned with somebody being in the back of a police car with a gun on them. It's very disturbing.
The officers heard the semi-automatic pistol thud onto the floor of the car. They pulled over and seized it. Ali Shobeg of Mississauga faces 9 criminal charges, including 8 firearms charges, one of them being for possession of firearm contrary to prohibition order. According to old court records, Shobeg wasn't allowed to own a gun. And that stems from his connection to a 2005 shooting outside of a Toronto no-frills. He was 23 years old at the time. Attempted murder charges were later dropped, but he was sentenced to 3 years for possession of a loaded firearm with a lifetime weapons prohibition order. Fast forward 14 years, he's in the back of a police cruiser again, this time with a gun.
Ali Shobeg appears in court on November 4th. Now, Toronto Police Chief Mark Saunders didn't make himself available to reporters today, but he did say in a statement earlier that he'll be looking at whether or not this will be dealt with through disciplinary action or training for his officers. Ali Chasson, CBC News, Toronto.
Hundreds of protesters gathered outside the Palmerston branch of the Toronto Public Library tonight as feminist writer Megan Murphy spoke inside.
Our rights are no debate!
Our rights are no debate!
Trans rights are human rights!
Trans rights are human rights!
And Murphy is a controversial figure to many in the LGBT community. She has argued that allowing men to identify as women undermines women's rights and that transgender women should not be allowed in women's spaces. The library has faced weeks of criticism after agreeing to host the event, including criticism from Mayor John Tory. The library stuck by its decision, arguing it has an obligation to protect free speech, and the event does not violate its policy on renting space for community events. The trial of a Toronto police officer and his brother began today. They are both facing charges, accused of beating a young black man with a metal pipe. Loretta Redekop is covering the trial in Whitby.
It was December 28, 2016, when Devonte Miller, 19 at the time, was severely beaten on a street in Whitby. Byron James Silverthorne, seen in the striped tie, lived on the street. He said he and his wife were woken up by loud noises and screaming and called 911 that night. In court, they played the call. On it, Silverthorne said, "There's a fight happening next door. He's kicking in our door. He's yelling, 'Call 911.'" Silverthorne said, "One guy's got a stick. It's about 4 feet long. I think he's going to strike the guy again." The 911 operator responded, saying they had another call about this and said, "I guess the one guy was trying to break into his car." Silverthorne explained to the court he could see one man on the ground in his driveway. Another man would strike him any time he tried to get up. Earlier, Crown Attorney Linda Shim opened a long cardboard box and pulled out a metal pole around 1 meter long. She advised it had no biological material on it and had been cleaned. Witness Jennifer Bowler was on the stand at the time. The Durham Regional Police Constable took evidence photos at the scene. She said 3 911 calls had come in just before 3 a.m. from the Silverthornes, accused Christian Theriault, and the victim, Devontae Miller. Bowler says she arrived and saw Miller on the ground being restrained by a white man on top of him. She said Miller's eye was very bloody. There appeared to be red underneath the eye, and seeing that, it made me a little queasy. She took many photos of apparent blood splatters and took pictures of Miller's injuries. He was already in an ambulance under arrest. Charges against him were dropped months later. And months after that, Michael and Christian Theriault were charged. Today, they pleaded not guilty to aggravated assault and obstructing justice by giving false or misleading statements. Today, the Crown told the court the defendants used excessive force. Each accused lied about their interaction with Mr. Miller, that he had a weapon, that they feared for their lives, and that they acted in self-defense. Court is now adjourned until Thursday. Devontae Miller is expected to testify sometime next week. Lorenda Redicop, CBC News, Oshawa.
We're hearing from several residents in the Birchmount and Lawrence area who are trying to shine a light on a problem on their streets. It's the lack of any street lights. They say for the past several weeks they've been malfunctioning, leaving their neighborhood in complete darkness. As Kelda Young tells us, many say they don't feel safe going outside.
It's not completely dark yet, but soon it will be. And Cindy Fuller doesn't expect this to turn on.
The fact that I cannot put my dogs on a leash at 10 o'clock at night and walk down the street before they go to bed is ridiculous.
And that's the least of her concerns.
But there are so many seniors on this street that if they're getting out of a wheel trans or some other thing and their lights in their house are not on their porch, they're literally walking into complete darkness and they could fall and hurt themselves.
Residents on Beacon Road say the lights on their street and 2 others nearby, Maryfield Road and Vauxhall Drive, have been malfunctioning for about 2 months now, sometimes coming back on for a few days, only to go out again.
We used to walk all the neighbors together, but now people are scared. They don't want to go around in a dark street.
It's about 7 p.m. right now, and it's pretty pitch black. You probably can't really see me right now unless we turn on the camera light.
You never know if you can maybe step on something.
Or worse, get mugged, says Christian Capaccio. He's an international exchange student living with Fuller's family. It takes him about 10 minutes to walk from the bus stop to the house.
The problem is, you never know what's going to happen, It's like you can't barely see even your hand, in front of you. To be honest with you, sometimes we tend to get really nervous if I see somebody just walk in, because you only see it's just like a shadow just passing by.
Residents say they've called Toronto Hydro, which told them it will need more time to investigate. In a statement to CBC, a spokesperson said, as the investigation into the underlying cause of the problem is ongoing, we're taking steps to implement temporary solutions to ensure that these streetlights remain on for parents and their children as trick-or-treating gets underway.
Just fixing it today for Halloween is great, but then in 3 days it'll go off again. So I don't want to spend my winter in the dark. To me, them investigating it now is a little bit late. This should have been fixed by now.
Kelda Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Carla Kennedy's here with a first look at the forecast. We got to talk about some rain coming our way.
Yeah, we sure do, Mike. We are going to see some significant rain as we go towards the end of the week. It just happens that Halloween's going to be, in there as well. And the other thing are going to be some of the winds that we're going to be experiencing. And I wanted to show you the temperatures across the country, the daytime highs today, because it leads you to, I hope, understand why we're going to see such a gradient that's going to really drive those winds and some of the active weather. When you've got readings like today, where we're talking a high of 17, 16 Windsor, the nation's capital at 18, and then look at these cold readings, -3 for Winnipeg, Regina at -8, much cooler behind it. Those are going to be clashing, and in between we really get the storm that we'll be seeing, or the stormy conditions we're going to be having. So some isolated showers out there tonight, but into tomorrow, we'll see more significant rain developing as that moves in. We'll also, late into Wednesday, see at times some gusty winds. The really strong winds are coming actually Thursday night into Friday morning. So we'll just be dealing with some wet periods through the day tomorrow. And just taking this ahead, just giving you a little teaser into what's happening for Halloween. Yes, some wet conditions. As for the trick-or-treat hours, we're going to go into that in a little more detail coming up in the show. Tonight, 7. Tomorrow, a big departure from today, Mike, a high of just 10.
Yikes. Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Both the city and the province are calling this a big day for Toronto Transit. Council is now backing the Ontario government's subway plans.
This is a deal that is good for our city. The costs the city has incurred on transit up to this point will be covered by the province.
That is just one piece of the new multi-billion-dollar transit agreement. It sees Premier Doug Ford backing off plans to take over Toronto's subway network in exchange for the city backing his priority projects, including the Ontario line, the Line 2 Scarborough extension, and the Line 1 extension to Richmond Hill. Some councillors, though, are raising concerns about the logistics of the Ontario line. For example, it is very early in the design stages, with a target opening date of 2027. A newlywed couple is speaking out tonight to warn others after one of the gift cards they received as a wedding present was drained before they ever got the chance to use it. That story coming up. Toronto Councillor Jay Robinson announced she has been diagnosed with breast cancer and is undergoing extensive treatment. Today, Mayor John Tory shared what he said to Robinson after he got the news.
She would have every bit of support from me, from my office, I know from her own office, and anybody else who can help her to both deal with the treatments that she's going to be dealing with for some time to come, but also to deal with her desire to continue to be as active as she can. She's somebody that I've known for a long time, and she's a fighter, and I just really want her to get better.
While Robinson's treatments will force her to take some time away from her job in the coming months, the Don Valley West councillor says she won't be stepping down. Robinson has served on council for nearly a decade and is the current chair of the TTC. If you like to give gift cards, this next story might have you rethinking your holiday shopping plans. A Whitby couple got married back in April and got a number of gift cards as presents. When they went shopping a few months later, they learned the balance on one card had been completely drained. Now, it's a crime that often goes unreported, but as Shannon Martin found out, experts believe it's happening more as technology evolves.
It was one of the happiest days of their lives, their wedding back in April. The couple got a pile of gift cards, but held off using this one until after they bought a new home in Whitby. In late September, they went to Home Depot to buy a lawnmower. Instead, they got a shock at the checkout.
The cashier was having troubles with it, and they tried a few things, and they scratched off the code for it, and they weren't able to use it. So we were wondering what was going on.
Turns out the $100 balance was drained, even though the couple never touched the card. That set off what would become a month of detective work. Anand Pavamani was determined not to let his friend's kind gesture go to waste.
It's their hard-earned money.
He started by emailing Shoppers Drug Mart, where his friend bought the card. The store's response, Shoppers Drug Mart is solely responsible for activating gift cards. They suggested he get in touch with Home Depot, where he and his wife tried to redeem the card. The chain confirms the card was swiped and used twice just after their wedding at a location in North York. In an email, Home Depot said it unfortunately only keeps security camera footage for 3 months, essentially saying it's impossible to prove who actually used the card. This is one of the card cloning machines that people can get easily online.
This is a card replicator. You can pick it up for tens of dollars, not hundreds of dollars. These are blank cards. They each have a certain amount of storage capacity, and they look exactly like regular cards that you would buy in a store.
This cybersecurity expert says there are countless ways criminals can steal gift card balances, including cloning cards. It only gets easier as technology gets better.
Ecosystem, the gift card fraud ecosystem is massive, and it presents numerous opportunities for mischief, for fraud, for scams. I personally stay away from gift cards.
But if you really want them, experts suggest only buying gift cards from behind the store counter, or better yet, online, directly from retailers. Pavamani hopes his story will encourage other people who think they've been scammed to come forward. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre says it's aware of organized retail fraud, but it doesn't keep statistics on it. As for the couple, they ended up getting a refund from the card maker after CBC Toronto reached out on their behalf. Shannon Martin, CBC News, Toronto.
Still ahead, it could be a dim December in Georgina. The town bought tens of thousands of dollars worth of Christmas lights, but as of now, has nowhere to plug them in. That story coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train Extreme Conditions Testing. It's hard to stop a train, really hard. Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
The Maple Leafs hosting the Capitals tonight with defenseman Travis Dermott in the lineup for the first time since having shoulder surgery in May. Let's pick it up in the second. Game tied at 1 when John Carlson scores just 6 seconds into a 5-on-3 power play. It's actually his second goal of the game. But in the final minute of the second, watch Austin Matthews with a picture-perfect tip to tie it at 2. Now, he had a go-ahead goal on a power play in the third. He has now scored 10 goals in 9 home games this season, but the Caps would tie this game and force overtime. They score on their second power play in OT and work the puck to Alex Ovechkin, who just doesn't miss. Washington takes it 4-3. Kella Kennedy's here with her extended look at the forecast, and I have a last-minute Halloween costume idea.
I think there's going to be many of us needing them. What is that?
Mary Poppins, built-in umbrella.
Perfect. Anything weather-related like that is perfect. But yes, she will be getting more than a spoonful of sugar. We've got a lot of things coming our way in terms of our weather conditions. Now, let me just give you some of the headlines here. Yes, the temperatures will be dropping, especially compared to today, where they were way above seasonal, a high of 17. We have rain that'll be moving in, and yes, lasting not just into Halloween, but beyond. And some of the gusts into Friday morning, some of those winds may exceed even not just 70, but 80 kilometers an hour. So lots to talk about here. Now, through the overnight, southwestern Ontario seeing some of those showers, just isolated for what we have around the GTA, but then developing more significantly as we approach the lunch hour and into the afternoon hours. At times, some heavier periods of rain, but it will kind of come in waves. And then as we go Wednesday night into Thursday, look where we get into the yellows and orange. So certainly some heavier amounts there. And up to the north and back to the west, yeah, some areas where we're talking about. By the time we get towards Friday morning, the Barrie area may see 3 to 5 centimeters of some snowfall there. It's just this rain that we're dealing with, and lots of it, because it's not just Wednesday, but into Thursday. This is 5 p.m., so still some heavier amounts coming through as we're approaching those trick-or-treat hours. We may get, and this is a big May, a little dry pocket that might last an hour or so. That would be wonderful for the trick-or-treaters, but you see so many areas of southern and southwestern Ontario that aren't going to be seeing that as it comes in those waves continuing on Thursday night into Friday morning, and the winds really ramping up overnight Thursday into Friday as well. So some of the potential rainfall we're looking at all told as these systems move in, 30 to 50 millimeters as it passes by, in some cases even more than that. And in terms of the forecast winds, I really want you to see what happens there as we go into Friday morning. So 70, 80 kilometers an hour with some of these gusts, even back towards Windsor, 65 to 75. So some really significant winds until those ease off later on Friday. A look overnight at your temperatures, southwestern Ontario, 7 degrees tonight with some scattered showers. Still looking at some rain, some periods of rain through the day tomorrow. 11 degrees for the GTA tonight. Just isolated showers, and the temperatures similar to what they are in southwestern Ontario. A big departure from today in terms of the readings tomorrow, and then much colder air comes in behind the system once it finally gets out of here. So you're looking, by the time we reach the weekend, those temperatures 10 degrees cooler than where they were today, Mike.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
The town of Georgina had a bright idea. Why not string Christmas lights up downtown? So council got the money and put them up, but forgot one important detail. There was no place to plug them in. Greg Ross tells us how they are now racing to upgrade their hydro poles before St. Nick comes to town.
There's nothing that brings the people of Georgina together quite like the holidays. What's it like at Christmas time around here?
Love it. Yeah, we have a big parade and everybody comes out.
They put like little Christmas trees and like candy canes and stuff.
So you can imagine how exciting it was when City Council managed to secure $70,000 in funding for new Christmas lights.
We were able to get funding from the Association of Municipalities of Ontario through the streetscaping programs.
They decided to go with state-of-the-art LEDs that would make the streets of Georgina more colorful and a lot brighter. The problem is they have nowhere to plug those lights in. Hydro poles here in Georgina aren't equipped with the proper outdoor electrical outlets.
You have to have a code-compliant electrical connection, just like you would have like on your patio porch.
There are 54 hydro poles in Georgina that need to have new electrical outlets installed. That's not cheap, is it?
No, the electrical upgrades is at least $30,000. It's between $500 and $600 per installation.
City Council found the funding to pay for the upgrades, but with less than 2 months to go until Christmas, the question is, can they get the work done on time? It'll be at least another 2 to 3 weeks before they can even start.
So as soon as they get working, they can do a couple a day. So we need 25 days of work essentially.
They're in a race against the clock to try and get all of this done so they can light up Georgina for Christmas.
That's going to be a challenge. That's not much time.
Are you worried?
Yes. Yeah, we don't move too quickly here.
While residents aren't optimistic, the mayor of Georgina is. You're giving your guarantee it's not going to be dark for Christmas this year?
There'll be Christmas lights in Georgina.
And at the very least, they'll have new lights and new outlets to plug them into. If it doesn't happen this year,
It'll be there next year. Hopefully.
Greg Ross, CBC News, Georgina.
As long as another department doesn't come down and take them down for next year. Well, tomorrow on Metro Morning, Matt's going to welcome a couple of guests his younger listeners might recognize. Gary the Unicorn and Mr. Orlando, stars of CBC Kids. They're going to be talking about their new children's podcast called The Story Store, which takes a kid's idea and then spins it into an imaginative story. You can hear that around 8:20 on Metro Morning. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Good night.